Welcome to the Four Visions Market Podcast, a space built on the principles of integrity and reciprocity. Together, we will engage in thought-provoking conversations about plant medicines, why these plants are coming out of the rainforests, jungles, and mountains after thousands of years, and what it means to be in right relationship with the ancestral wisdom cultures and guardians of these traditions. I'm your host, Mariah Ganessa, founder and director of Four Visions Market. This podcast is the natural evolution in our commitment to providing you, our tribe, with incredible resources to support you on your healing journey through plant medicines. Welcome home. Hey, Four Visions tribe. Thank you for tuning into our intro episode. In this episode, I'm going to share a little bit about what you can expect as we embark on this podcast journey, as well as introduce you to our goals and visions behind starting this podcast. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I guess I'll start by sharing a little about who I am. You may recognize my name from the emails in your inbox from Four Visions Market or the occasional social media post. But for the most part, I've stayed more in the background of our initiative over the last 5 years. So that being said, I am really looking forward to getting to share my voice and more of who I am through this podcast. It's a little vulnerable for me. Actually, it's really, really, really vulnerable for me. As we got started recording up until this point, this podcast has pushed me to the edges of my comfort zone on every single level, and we're just getting going. But there's something about putting yourself out there, allowing yourself to be seen, that goes deep and stirs up all of our fears, insecurities, and inhibitions. And I'm open to that. I'm saying yes to that. 5 years into the mission that is Four Visions Market, all the people that we have reached, the incredible community that we have built, I am feeling ready to step into this. And so I'm trusting you. I'm trusting our incredible Four Visions family will hold us and hold me in grace as we go learning, growing, and transforming together through each conversation and each episode. So for those of you who may not be super familiar with Four Visions, I'd like to share a little bit about my story and how we all got to be here today. About 10 years ago, I was a young college student chugging away and walking the path that had been expected of me since I was a little girl. But I found myself feeling very disconnected, very alone, and on the verge of depression. This led me to walk away from that life, to walk away from the scholarship I had at UCLA and go on a search for a better way of living. Even as a young 18-year-old, 19-year-old, I figured that a better way had to exist. Even then, I knew in my heart that we are here on this earth to thrive, not only survive. And this truly was the fire that opened the doorway for me to walk away from the known. And so soon after making that decision, I was invited to go to Colombia to work with a traditional medicine man and the ancestral plants of his people. This man, Taita Juanito Chindoy, would become a transformational ally, teacher, and friend to me in my life. From the very moment that I met him, there was a profound recognition, and my life changed forever. While I know now that it is a combination of the plants, all of nature, all of creation, that do the healing, I bring my teacher, Taita Juanito, into this conversation, the master healer that he is, the way that he saw me, my potential, my heart, and held the door open for me to walk through and meet the person I was always meant to become. I bring him to this conversation because it's impossible to talk about who I am and what Four Visions is without him. The vision for this initiative was birthed out of my immense gratitude and reverence for this man, Taita Juanito, and the powerful lineage and culture that he comes from that awakened my heart, my spirit, to a new way of living, a new way of seeing life, The healing that I received from the Ngano lineage, the culture of Yahe and Taitawan's family, who opened their hearts to me and embraced me as one of their own, humbled me to my core. My life was forever changed. And then the question came, how can I give back to this tribe that has given me everything, has given me a new life? And the answer came through the medicine. And a seed was planted and it grew. It became 4 visions, whose name comes from Taita Juanito's culture and refers to the 4 types of visions that we receive when we commune with the ancestral plants. The name, the vision, was reviewed in the medicine. We prayed and consulted the spirits of nature. We received blessings from the Taitas and the elders. And the path was opened. We began supporting the weavers of my teacher's community, but quickly expanded to other communities throughout the Amazon and South America. Ingano, Witoto, Guahibo, Arawaka, Wayu in Colombia, Kuntanawa, Hunikuin, Yawanawa, Nukini, Aporina, Katukina, Puyanawa in Brazil, Shipibo, Conibo, and Quechua in Peru, modern-day Mayan descendants in Guatemala. We quickly saw that each indigenous community was craving the same thing, to be able to share their culture and ancestral practices in a way that brought empowerment, value, and economic abundance for their peoples. Each community had different goals, different visions, but each tribe we entered into relationship with had needs. We often think of the ancestral peoples as traditional tribes living deep in nature and away from modern society, 100% sustainable and sovereign. But modernization and industrialization has infected the entire world. And the majority of these communities are either needing to recover their native lands after the abuse and harm caused by colonialism, or they need to invest in the infrastructure that is required to create a better life for their peoples, and in many cases, both. So whether that be through solar panels to be able to have electricity deep in the jungles, or the need to clean up their water sources after toxic pollution has killed off their ecosystems, or the need to reforest their territories and return to the ancestral farming techniques that were taken from them, these communities need money to accomplish their goals. The natural solution was to form an initiative that would act as a bridge to the people in the West, deeply yearning for these ancestral healing tools and plants, and through this process, preserve and protect the indigenous communities while supporting them in achieving their goals and visions. As we enter our 6th year in this mission, I am deeply humbled by the impact 4 Visions has had around the world. 4 Visions has become a living prayer, activated and fortified by thousands of people across the world that believe in this mission and support this work. Young adults in the tribes that we work with are choosing to learn the art of their ancestors because they see that there is immense value in these spiritual tools and medicines for all of humanity. They now see a future for their cultural practices, where 20 years ago, many indigenous cultures were slowly dying, their languages on the verge of extinction. You see, this reciprocity, the sharing of cultures is crucial for the preservation of life and the healing of humanity. We need one another. We started recording the first season of this podcast in December, and it quickly became clear that the conversations we would have on the show would be important. The missing link for all the work we are doing. You see, it's no secret that plant medicine is on the rise, which is amazing and beautiful and what the world needs. But when you take a plant or a tradition or a ritual out of its native place and bring it into a new environment, there are significant implications to this. They aren't bad necessarily, but they are significant. And in order to preserve the sacredness, the ancientness, the potency, There are certain awarenesses that must be had when approaching or working with these tools. This important piece of this very unique and interesting puzzle is what we seek to address on this podcast. The Four Visions Market podcast will be focused on 3 principal pillars. They are pillar number 1, plant medicine. We will approach the studies of the master plants from a place of curiosity and reverence for the ancestral wisdom cultures that have stewarded these ceremonies and healing practices for millennia. We are interested in the scientific approach as well and seek to bring professionals and experts in the field across the spectrum of traditional culture and the healing of modern society onto our show. We believe that we are living in a pivotal time when plant medicines are coming out of the rainforest to be shared with all of humanity. We seek to educate and share, bringing valuable information and teachings to our community. Pillar number 2, ethical commerce and sacred reciprocity. We believe in optimal living for all beings. This includes ultimate thriving and economic abundance and freedom. We strive to uphold this vision of sacred commerce and will focus on this principle in the show. Additionally, we will focus on the concept of Aini, of sacred reciprocity, and how this is a central conversation for anyone walking the path of the plants. We as a company operate in a beyond fair trade platform and firmly believe these deeply rooted principles of giving back, upliftment, and balance have contributed to the impact we have been able to have. And so this too will be a primary focus on our show. Principle number 3, the Amazonian rainforest and her peoples. Our partnerships with our artisans and medicine makers is sacred. They are the foundation of our work. We look forward to sharing more about their cultures, teachings, and practices on the show. Additionally, we look forward to sharing more about the work of our nonprofit partners and opening the show to conversations about how to support the preservation of the Amazon and her people. These pillars serve as our takeoff point. We look forward to exploring these important conversations with you. It is important to note that this podcast is fluid and an ever-evolving offering. We will take what works and leave what doesn't. We want your feedback more than ever before on this new adventure so that this podcast can become what you, our community, is deeply craving and needing. In this first season, you'll see a variety of different types of episodes. Some traditional interviews with prominent medicine men and medicine women. Some episodes will be a format that we are calling Medicine Stories, a unique style that seeks to highlight the profound healing effects and transformation that plant medicine brings through the lens of authentic testimony. Some episodes I will be joined by a co-host. Other episodes will be hosted by other people in our community. By the way, you can nominate someone within the medicine community to be part of these conversations by going to fourvisionsmarket.com/podcast submission. We want to hear from you about who you want to see on this podcast. So please check it out. If you have someone in mind, go to fourvisionsmarket.com/podcast submission to let us know who you want to see on this show. And since I'm on the topic of your engagement, would you please take a moment to save, like, and follow this podcast? That way you'll get notifications each week when a new episode is released. As we get this project off the ground, your support is so helpful with guaranteeing our podcast success. And if you enjoy the conversations we have in this first season, please feel free to share them with your loved ones or on your social media platform so that these conversations can ripple out into the world and touch those who are calling this information to their lives at this time. Episode 1 drops this Friday, February 10th, and we'll have new episodes weekly every Friday. Feel free to leave a review or comment on this episode and let us know your thoughts and what you are most excited about in this first season. I am stoked and really humbled to get to be taking this journey with you. So thank you so much for tuning in and sending abundant blessings to you and your family, my friends. May you be well.